Hey everybody, I'm Flossie, and with me is the amazing co-host Nikki. You're here at the Assumption Effect, so we have an interesting topic to talk about today, which is creating stories that work for you, how it works, positive and negative, because we got a question about it. Did you still have that question with you, Nikki?
No, I don't. I came
Oops,
outside.
my
It
bad.
was just basically somebody was asking Flossie and I, how if creating stories works, then if they're having negative thoughts or negative storytelling in their head regarding SP or something else, is that going to create a negative story or a negative outcome?
Yeah, because I think that part of the question mentioning I like something like if there's a third party thinking, well, they use that person to get over you, or they needed that person to realize how much they wanted you or something like that.
Right, right. So, Flossie, I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm on the fence. I know, because every story that you persist in, it's not just like the passing stories we have, right? I mean, like, we all have daydreams or, intrusive thoughts. It's not the passing stories or the passive thoughts that are manifesting, really. It's the ones that we persist in. So if we're persisting in that same negative story or negative thinking every time the topic comes up, you're going to create a negative or positive, no matter what the storyline is.
I think my big thing about creating stories is that and so so sorry, just to explain what creating stories is for those of you who might be new here, just real quick. Um Nikki and I do talk about this a lot, but Nikki, wouldn't you say that creating stories is basically like you are literally making a story, which is the creating. A story is, how your explanation of why like the 3D is the way that it is, or um whatever is going on. And so creating a story is just basically like for example, if SP hasn't texted you and you're no in no contact and you notice they haven't texted you, and you're wanting to think as though they talk to you all the time, you might create a story that, well, SP's just busy at work right now. They're going to text me as soon as they can. And so that would be like a mini version of creating a story. Sometimes when people have a bigger thing in their 3D reality, like, a third party, or they didn't get hired for a position, or XYZ, they create a larger story to basically like explain either why the 3D is the way that it is or why it would reportedly benefit them. Is Wouldn't you say that, Nikki?
Yeah, I mean, it's really about just changing the perspective. Is the glass half empty or half full? It's about being optimistic about the outcome, right? So creating stories in that instance to me is more for like mental diet, because we don't want to project in our intention as like, oh, he's busy now, he's going to call me any minute, because we don't project like it's going to happen. Our affirmations are, it's done, it's happened, it belongs to me. But mental diet is really where the story creation of the where, what, why, who comes into play and changing your perspective about it, because really I could go either way. Like if I see something that I automatically perceive as negative, someone else may see that same circumstance and see it as a positive. Like, oh, that happened because XYZ, and it's a positive thing. But I say, oh my God, that happened because it was a negative thing. I'm trying to think of an example, but I just totally blinked.
So, an example might be someone has a conversation with SP, but it isn't exactly what they wanted.
Right, right.
So some
And what
positive might be, you and SP are having a conversation. That's
Right,
movement.
right,
And, some people might look at it as, well, I don't have my manifestation yet, so therefore it's negative.
right. So they're being pessimistic versus optimistic.
But that's assigning like positive meanings to stuff, instead of like creating a story. So I know that with a lot of my clients, what I tell them when about creating a story is whatever story that they create, because I do agree with you that when you're creating a story, if you focus on that story enough, that your 3D reality can become that, or
Hmm.
you could shift to the reality where that's happened. Um, but I tell them when when we're coming up with a story, or that they're, when they're going to create a story, that they need to create a story that is in line with what they're manifesting and what they're willing to accept. So in other words, if someone has an SP and there's a third party, first thing we figure out is, are they going to acknowledge the third party? What
Mhm.
are they going to, what meaning are they going to assign to the third party? Like, who's that person? Is it an actual relationship? Is it someone that the SP went on a couple dates with and couldn't stand? Is it something that you had a nightmare about and literally like never happened? So like, what is it? I have
Mhm.
some people who want to revise that there was ever a third party. So while they're revising it, they need to come up with a reason why they would be thinking of whatever photos that they saw or whatever that they heard or this, that, and the other thing. And a lot of people go with that was a terrible nightmare that they had, or, they were daydreaming and that weird thought popped in their head, or, it resembled a TV show that they watched. But whatever the story that they choose to create, they stick to it.
Right. And that's true for revision. That's also true for your actual manifestation. Like your affirmations, really what they are is it is formulating a story. So that you are let's just say money, that you're wealthy, that you're successful, that you have tons of money, right? That's your new
Mhm.
story. So anytime you think of money, you're going to think of a story that corresponds with what that story is, whether it's your actual affirmations or whether it's something that implies the same thing. If you're daydreaming, and I find, for me personally, I find daydreaming, like if I'm daydreaming, it just kind of, I have no control over it. And when I talk to people that have that, because it's just like random, I'll tell them if you're daydreaming or having this vision or like zoning out, and it's not in your favor and you're projecting this like negative circumstance, then you need to go back in, either affirm it or either tell yourself internally with another visual or just words why, what the new story is, or change it in a form of revision. But usually I just go with like, oh no, that was just intrusive thoughts, like everything in my life is perfect type thing. Creating stories doesn't have, it's going to manifest positive or negative. Like you can't prevent it unless you hone down in on your mindset and really pay attention to your thoughts.
Well, I think it might be useful if we talk about like just some different examples of stories that people might use. I know that I mentioned with someone who's revising something that they may choose to look at the, actual event as a nightmare or a weird thought that they had, and that's what they would tell themselves when they're thinking about it. For people that are manifesting a specific person that end up, having the relationship end and going into no contact, if you're not revising that the breakup never happened, because some people choose to do that, especially if it was a short period of time, one of the things that people can go with is a story to tell themselves. And you tell yourself a story in the past, like as if it was a past event, if that's appropriate. But some people will be like, SP and I had a small break, but that was the best thing that could ever happen to our relationship. Our relationship's stronger than ever now. So they acknowledge that there was, a break or a small time apart. But in their mind, when they think about it, it was short, it was brief, it was healthy for the relationship, it helped to move the relationship forward. Um, I have a lot of clients that manifest getting a new job, for example, and they are still working at their old job. Like they can't, they're not going to, in reference to our previous video, act as if and quit their current job before they have a new one. They're going
Right.
to stay at the old job. And I've had a lot of clients say, what story can I create um, while I'm at this old job? And I told them what I would tell myself is, I've got the new job I'm about to start. I'm just wrapping the old job up. I gave my notice. I'm just
Right.
finishing up my time here because depending on what someone does for a living, I mean, most places expect you to give a week to 2 weeks notice. Some places, like if you have an actual career and they have to replace you, it might be in your contract that you're giving them a month's notice. So that's how I tell my clients to think of it. I'm just wrapping this up. I'm just doing, my little rest of my time here. I'm about to start my new one.
Right. And some of you, I actually did this myself, like years and years ago. I had called Flossie. And here's the thing, you don't have to believe these stories you're telling yourself. That's the very important part of this. I think sometimes we will automatically assume that the negative is going to happen because that's what we've experienced in the past. So it's harder to believe these new stories that we're creating because we haven't experienced them before.
Mm-hmm.
So I will tell you something that happened to me that Flossie helped me with years and years ago. I saw a picture of my SP online and there was a girl kissing him on the cheek and it was very disturbing. You remember this, right? Told the story a
Hmm.
million times. And of course, before I even talked to Flossie, or maybe while I was on the phone with her, I was already going down the rabbit hole to find out that this girl was single, newly divorced, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh crap, there's a third party. There wasn't a third party before. Well, there was, but it was different. But I started spiraling. I started freaking out. Flossie's like, create a story. You know this. Come on, create a story. So we came up with a story that this was a friend of a friend because they were out hiking. So this is a friend of a friend. She's just doing that, kissing people on the cheek and being flirty and posting pictures to make her ex-husband jealous. Means nothing. I didn't believe a damn word of that. Anytime it popped in my head, that's what I tell myself. That was just a friend of a friend. She's just trying to make her ex-husband jealous. He doesn't like her. It means nothing. And that's what I would tell myself. Different variations of that, but the same premise. And when I asked him about it months later, when we're in contact, I still didn't believe it. I still didn't. There was skepticism there, and I asked him about it because I was like, "Hey, who was that girl in the picture?" And I didn't believe it. And when it came out of his mouth and he left, I called Flossie because I was like, "Holy crap!" Because verbatim, his words were, "She was just a friend of a friend. He brought her hiking because she's been really upset, wanted to get her out of the house." Recently divorced, and she's just been posting pictures everywhere and being flirty to make her ex-husband jealous. Could not believe it. I was flabbergasted. I was like on the floor. Did not believe that crap.
Well, we already know that you don't have to believe what it is that you're thinking in order for it to manifest. It's just whatever your dominant thought is on the topic. And so,
Right.
I jokingly said before, and I'll say it again, if you are assuming that your SP is sitting there at his house or her house on the couch watching Netflix, eating a bag of Doritos, that's what they're doing. Nikki and I had a mutual client who became a friend that we knew for a long time who had a specific person, and they weren't hearing from their specific person. They were supposed to have heard from them by a certain time that day. And I just said, got to create a story that works. And I said, he's taking a nap. She's like, he doesn't take naps. I'm like, the dude works. He goes to school. He's taking a nap. She's like, he hasn't taken a nap, in the 3 years I've known him. I said, I don't give a fuck if he hasn't taken a nap since he's been 3 years old. As far as you're concerned, he is taking a nap today. He fell asleep, period. And so she agreed that that was going to be the story that she would keep telling herself every time she thought about how like he was late returning her call. And then she ended up reaching out later saying she had heard from him. He was apologetic. He said that he sat on the couch. He was so tired from work and school and he fell asleep and what? Took a nap.
Yep.
So it's whatever you choose to tell yourself to explain situations to yourself. And of course, choose things that are going to be helpful to you. Like, I don't mind, and Nikki and I can have different viewpoints. We're different people, but I don't mind the thought process of, SP's always blowing up my phone. They're not blowing it up right this second because I'm sure they're at a work meeting or they're probably like with a client or something like that. I don't mind that personally. It just gives an explanation of why they're not texting you right now, but it still implies that they're going to be blowing up your phone. What we don't tell people to tell themselves as a like pretty much a hard no is don't be like SP literally has no idea what's to say. He's so nervous to talk to me. Do you want to create that? Like, no, you don't want to create that. You want to have this in your mind that SP loves talking to you, that they feel so comfortable talking to you, that like they don't like talking to anyone as much as they like talking to you. Not that they don't know what to say, that they're afraid, that they're nervous, that they think I'm going to be angry. Like, don't say those things and form those assumptions.
Right. Right. I mean, you want to have a positive story no matter what it is. And even if you don't believe it, persist in it.
I had a
It's going
client
to
that
unfold.
was I had a client who's been working on manifesting like coming into a bunch of money, open to how it comes, but whether it be a lottery win or whatever. And she was telling me that they're going to be moving into a bigger apartment, and she's like, "What do I tell myself of why I'm moving into just another apartment?" I said, you could tell yourself a couple different things. You could say you're moving into an apartment that is roomier for you while your new home is being built because you're having it custom built. You could, and just think it would be wasteful to rent an expensive place or, buy a different place, you're just waiting for your house to be done. You could tell yourself that you came into a bunch of money and you're setting up your a trust, and so you don't have the money yet. Like, so when people win the lottery, they don't have the money instantly. Like, it takes some time, and what a lot of people do is they set up a trust or other type of accounts for that money to go in, and that also takes some time. And so somebody could win the lottery and potentially not have the money for, maybe it's like a month. I don't know. I've never won the lottery, so I couldn't actually tell you, but I know that it can take a few minutes. And so there's a whole bunch of stories that you could come up with to tell yourself that would be in line with whatever you're manifesting. Oh, I'm having a house built. Oh, you know, I wanted more room and I really haven't found the house that I'm looking for. Like, I'm wealthy as fuck, but I'm also still a conservative person. Like, there's a lot of people who are rich that you wouldn't know are rich. I mean, Nikki, how many celebrities back in the day would run around driving Hollywood driving a Prius?
Hmm. You wouldn't know. I mean, there's still celebrities to this day are very modest, like Keanu Reeves, or he lives in like a 3-bedroom house with his mom, like, and he's a
Or
multi.
like, I think Cameron Diaz was one of the ones that had a Prius, because they
Right.
liked the car and they liked being, in something environmentally friendly. And Prius is like, that's a $30,000 vehicle. These people have millions of dollars. They're running around in a $30,000 vehicle. You can still choose to be conservative with money, even if you're wealthy. And that's not having a poor money mindset. Some people are just like, I don't want to be wasteful.
Right. We have a client at the spa that we go see every once in a while, and she's a multimillionaire, and you can tell if you looked at her, you
Hmm.
want to be able to tell. She drives a Jeep like mine, because I'm very modest too. I could afford a much more expensive car, but I like my Jeep. Um, she drives a Jeep like me. Like, if you saw her out in public, you would never know she had money. She's not carrying around a Louis Vuitton. She's not all dialed up. She's just a tomboy. And but when you go to her house, you can tell. I mean, she's got a ranch. Everything's pink. Everything's painted pink. I think I told you about her. But like, the thing is, you perceive things a certain way as far as like what this should look like, and it should be what it looks like to you, to make the stories easier to do the buy-in on. Because for me, having money means I would just travel more, and I'm modest, and I do make good money. So when it comes to me, I spend more time on activities than I would material items. And you have to think about what's this story look like to you. Don't base it off somebody else. Base it off your own wants, needs, and desires.
Right. And so just if you're creating a story, just make sure that it ultimately is in line with whatever you want to manifest. I mean, if you hear a bunch of people talking about SP and a third party, well, that was a nightmare. That was just something that popped in your head randomly in your imagination. Or, it could be an explanation. Like, if it's people that you don't really like, just say they're just trying to talk some smack. People still talk smack. They're just
Right.
idiots that are talking smack. They don't know what they're talking about. Um, and call it a day. So you create a story that works for you. If you don't have a lot of money in the bank account, oh, well, my money's in other bank accounts. This is just the one that I just keep some spending money and I just need to transfer some money.
Right. And if you're a
There's,
modest person, just use that to your advantage. Or
mhm.
just say, I'm waiting. Flossie likes to use, I don't like that color of that yacht. I'm going to wait for the right color.
Well, part of having like that thinking as if mindset, living in the end, is thinking as if you have money. So, I mean, obviously, if you've got two nickels to rub together, you're not going to go buy the new Michael Kors or Coach purse. But you can be like, I don't really like that color, or, that's not why I'm here at the store today. I'll send someone else to do it. I mean, I'm at my mother's, which is why everything's blurred. And Nikki knows Nikki, I'm at my mother's.
Right.
I just had my cleaning lady go to McDonald's and get me my iced coffee and my mother something to eat, because my mother doesn't usually eat McDonald's. And when you don't have it and like for years you're like, oh, that would sounds like it would be, nice, the French fries. She brought French fries all the way over to me, like at my mom's.
Right. You're like an hour away, aren't you? Or
It's not an hour, but it's not, except, I mean, from where she lives, it's not excessively close. I think it probably took her like at least an hour round trip to go, go to the nearest McDonald's and bring it here and then go home. And I just literally texted her and said, "Are you busy? I want some McDonald's coffee." Like I don't even have the time go to the store because she just goes for me.
Right.
So you can use it as part of your mindset. Oh, you know, I'll order it online later when I have more time, or I'll send my personal assistant to go do it. I'll send my cleaning lady to go do it.
It's in my personal assistants do everything.
I probably
Not
should refer to
bothered.
her more as a personal assistant. She just doesn't do like office stuff for me, but she does like everything else. Like she literally is watching my dog.
My personal assistants always did errands for me. It wasn't just office stuff because they were
Hmm.
personal assistants, not office assistants. Starbucks, yes. Lunch, yes. But I always treated them well. I'd always take them to lunch and stuff with me. Like, and I know you treat her well, so
Hmm.
it's not like a servant. They're friends. Um, that being said, going over that, create stories that work for you. Don't persist in negative stories. If you find yourself coming up with negative stories, guess what? Override them with something positive. Change the perspective of that story. Change the whole storyline, not just the perspective.
Yeah,
But
don't entertain the ones that are negative that aren't going to work for you.
you need to stop worrying too. I'm just going to add this last bit. Stop worrying so much if, oh my God, I thought of a negative story it's going to create, because that worry is just going to, if I tell you to, if you tell somebody to stop worrying, they're going to worry more. So if you're telling yourself constantly to stop worrying, you're just going to keep thinking about it, and you're going to end up creating that story because you keep thinking about it. It's not going to manifest, not unless you allow it to. Create the positive stories into story. That's it.
No, and if you're worrying and freaking out, that's when you know it's time to do Nikki. That's when they know it's time to do your FU letter,
Right.
and then followed up with one of my command letters.
Well, someone showed up. So we'll see you guys next time before my dogs go crazy. Bye.
Bye.